with the first pick in the
ultimate NBA mock draft.
First of all, wingspan.
There's weaknesses to his game.
An explosive athlete.
That's like his floor.
A high ceiling.
He's going to be the next LeBron James.
This pick really should be that simple.
Cade Cunningham,
Evan Mobley,
Jalen Green,
Jonathan Kuminga,
Jalen Suggs.
and now let's send it over to our Audacy expert and the White Mamba himself, Brian Scalabrine.
Is the man who built the world of NBA draft coverage, and that is Chad Ford, Jimmy Patsos from Audacy, and former NBA GM Ryan McDonough. Welcome to the 2021 Ultimate NBA Mock Draft.
Kuka Hill here with the Locked On Pistons podcast, and with the number one pick in the Locked On Network's Ultimate Mock Draft, the Detroit Pistons select Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State. This pick really should be that simple. It shouldn't take the Pistons much time at all. They should not be thinking about any trades. They should not be thinking about any other prospects. Cade is the best prospect in this draft. He's going to be the best player in this draft. And the Pistons need the guy. They've been needing the guy since back in Grant Hill. Even in 2004 when they won the championship, no one says they had the guy. They say they had the best starting five alive. The Pistons have not had that type of franchise player since probably Grant Hill, and they have a chance to get one right here. And no amount of draft picks, no amount of trades, and there's no value that can replace that. Unless you're giving us Zion Williamson and Luka Doncic, there's nothing that can replace something like that. The Pistons haven't had the first overall pick in 50 years and have never moved up with their own draft pick in the lottery until this year. Don't mess it up. Don't try to get too cute. Just take Cade, keep it simple, and set your franchise on the good path that it's already on.
Jackson Gatlin here from the Locked On Rockets podcast, and with the number 2 overall pick in the Ultimate Mock Draft, the Houston Rockets select guard Jalen Green of the G League Ignite. Jalen Green is such an exciting prospect in this year's NBA draft. He truly has the potential, I believe, and so as do many others, to become a really elite talent in the NBA. His ability to create separation already at his age in the G League, playing against legitimate competition, is so impressive. He can get his shot off pretty much at will whenever he wants. Not only that, he's a quality shooter, shot almost 37% from behind the arc in the G League. He's bouncy. He's a freak athlete. He can get to the rim with ease. He's got incredible ability, gravity to, kind of hang in the air and absorb contact, finish at the rim. He really is the total offensive package. There may be some questions about his defense, but you can't question his drive and his desire to be one of the best. Every time you hear this kid talk, he talks about wanting to improve, wanting to be one of the best, wanting to put in all the work that he needs to do. Came into the G League, knew that defense was an area he wanted to work on. It wouldn't surprise me to see him turn into a two-way player one day. The offensive package is already there, but based on all the interviews, based on everything we've heard from him, he has the drive and that killer mentality to be successful at the next level.
Hey everyone, Evan Damerl here, co-host of Locked On Cavs, the only Cleveland Cavaliers podcast where both hosts are verified. But with the third pick in the 2021 Locked On NBA Mock Draft, on behalf of the Cleveland Cavaliers, my co-host Chris Manning and myself select Southern California big man Evan Mobley. Other than getting the first overall pick and taking Cade Cunningham, landing third for Cleveland was their most ideal situation heading into this draft because they got to pick between the best player available and whoever was left when it came to Jalen Green and Mobley. With Mobley now in the fold, the Cavaliers can kick the can down the line a little bit when it comes to paying restricted free agent big man Jarrett Allen, but they can also play them together and form a formidable defensive duo that is impossible to score on the inside. Mobley shows a lot of flashes of Chris Bosh and even Anthony Davis, so the Cavaliers really got a true unicorn, as overblown as that comparison in term is, but it's just such a good pickup for Cleveland because they finally have a centerpiece that they can build around and envision their future and go forward with, and also figure out what they have of this young core, whether it's Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, Isaac Okoro, you name it. This is a stellar pick for Cleveland, and personally as an Evan, I'm a little bit biased, so the Evan to Evan connection is fun as well. But this is a great pick for the Cavaliers, like I said, and this will be a franchise-altering talent for them, and hopefully puts them in the right direction of making the playoffs once again, but for the first time without LeBron James as Dan Gilbert as the owner.
Sean Woodley here from Locked On Raptors, and with the fourth pick in the Ultimate Mock Draft 2021, the Toronto Raptors are taking Jalen Suggs, the guard out of Gonzaga, who really checks a ton of boxes here for the Raptors, who are extremely lucky to have moved up to number 4 in the first place to take him. Of course, the number one thing that comes to mind is the Raptors might be losing Kyle Lowry this offseason. He's a franchise icon, the best player in team history, and there's no better way to pass the baton off than to give it to a guy who has all-star potential in Jalen Suggs at the same position. So that's checkbox number one. The next thing, too, is that Jalen Suggs really fits the Raptors' timeline. They have Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, and Pascal Siakam already on their second contracts. The time is ticking before they become unrestricted free agents, and the Raptors need to maximize this window now. Those guys have championship experience. They have the DNA to be a good team. Their defense should kind of respond and bounce back, and they'll be playing at home next season, of course, to kind of rectify things and ensure that they're in the playoff conversation once again. And Suggs figures to be a guy who can come in and, if not be the number one ball handler from day one, be a really good secondary creator, a guy who can really break down a half-court defense as well, which has been a problem for the Raptors since Kawhi Leonard left. And while, Jonathan Kuminga and Scotty Barnes feature as guys who maybe could be molded by the Raptors' vaunted development staff into superstars one day, it's just going to take time with those guys, time the Raptors don't really have, and Jalen Suggs has star potential right now. So that's the pick, Jalen Suggs, number 4 to the Raptors in the ultimate mock draft.
Philip Rossman-Reich from the Locked On Magic podcast here with the 5th pick in the ultimate mock draft. The Orlando Magic select Jonathan Kuminga from the G League Ignite. Look, for the longest time, this was considered a 5-person draft. Somehow this became a 4+1 person draft. You could tell by the Jeff Waltman's look when the Magic's name was revealed at number 5. But somehow, Jonathan Kuminga has still become a bit underrated. Yes, Kuminga is the rawest of the top prospects in this draft. He's the one that has the longest way to go. But undoubtedly, too, he has the physicality and the size to be a strong NBA player and still the scoring potential to be a star player in this league. There's no guarantee that Jonathan Kuminga gets there, and certainly the backstop of his game is a little bit lower. He could bust very, very easily. But the way that he played in the G League Ignite, the way that he played in the bubble there, showed that he can play with professionals. And for an Orlando Magic team desperate for a star, this is the kind of gamble the team should take. Take the best player on the board, and that's Jonathan Kuminga.
Rylan Stiles here with the Locked On Thunder podcast with the 6th selection in the Ultimate Mock Draft 2021. The Oklahoma City Thunder select Scotty Barnes, basketball player, Florida State. The Oklahoma City Thunder are enamored with Scotty Barnes, and he's seemingly flying up draft boards. So for him to still be here at 6 is a good thing for the Thunder. Scotty Barnes is the definition of a versatile player, and that trait is one that Mark Daigneault's preached since the beginning of his tenure as the Thunder head coach. While Scotty Barnes cannot shoot, he is an elite playmaker for his size and projects to be a very good defender. The Thunder might not have found their number 2 option next to Shea just yet, but they at least have found a quality starter in Scotty Barnes, and that's enough value at 6, considering the bad luck they had in the lottery.
Wes Goldberg here with the Locked On Warriors podcast, and with the number 7 pick in the Ultimate Mock Draft, the Golden State Warriors select Davion Mitchell, the guard out of Baylor. This is a no-brainer pick for the Warriors. With none of the top 6 guys falling down to number 7, the Warriors not only take the best player available, but they also take the guy who is most ready to contribute immediately. And this is a Warriors team that needs immediate contributors. They're looking for rotation guys for a team that hopes to contend for the Western Conference title this season. So Davion Mitchell, defensively, he can contribute immediately. Right out of the box, this guy is going to be an impactful defensive player. He can mirror other guys' movements. His anticipation, his instincts on that end are terrific. Even though he's small in stature at 6 feet tall, 6'4" wingspan, he's really strong and doesn't let guys just go through him. So he's going to be able to walk in, pick up opposing point guards at an elite level. That's a really novel skill set in today's NBA. On the offensive end, he shot 45% from 3 as a junior at Baylor. People believe that three-point stroke is real. He's a good ball handler. He can play make out of pick and roll situations, be a good ball mover in the flow of the offense. You don't need him to run your offense. That could be Draymond Green. That could be Steph Curry. But when he's coming off the bench as part of that second unit offense, he can also help stabilize things when Steph isn't in the game. This is a guy who can contribute on both ends right away. It's exactly what the Warriors need, and they're very happy with this pick at number 7.
Philip Rossman-Reich back here from Locked On Magic podcast with the 8th pick in the Ultimate Mock Draft. The Orlando Magic select Moses Moody from Arkansas. With the first pick, I talked about the Magic's need for a star. With the second pick, the Magic need to find shooting and need to find someone that's going to contribute. I've often said that for the first pick, the Magic need to go get the best player they can and get a star type of player. With the second pick, they need someone who's going to be safe and give them something from this draft. That's the beauty of having 2 picks. To me, Moses Moody is that player, a player who projects already as a 3-and-D player with his plus wingspan and his ability to defend already, but also his shooting ability. In the NBA game, he won't be expected to be the top scorer. He won't be expected to be the lead scorer. But the fact that he has that experience for a good Arkansas team suggests that maybe, just maybe, he can be a little bit more. He's often been compared to Chris Middleton, and frankly, I don't think that's a bad thing, although I don't think he's quite there yet. Moses Moody, to me, is the best of both worlds. A player who can potentially grow into becoming a star if he can continue to get better with his ball handling, and a player who's already should be established as a solid shooter and solid defender at the NBA level. So the Magic will take Moses Moody.
Jake Madison here from the Locked On Pelicans podcast in the Wednesday edition of Locked On NBA. And with the 9th pick in the Ultimate Mock Draft 2021, the Pelicans take Corey Kispert, wing out of Gonzaga. I went into this mock draft wanting to add shooting to the Pelicans to space the court better for Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. I swung a trade with the Sacramento Kings to swap Eric Bledsoe and 10 for Buddy Hield and 9. And I was looking to take Moses Moody at 9 after adding the shooting in Buddy Hield, but unfortunately the Magic took him 1 spot ahead with the 8th pick. And this changed my draft strategy a little bit. While I normally believe in drafting for pure upside and going with best player available, the Pelicans need to put a winner around Zion Williamson right now. And Corey Kispert kind of helps them fit that bill. While he's a little bit older and doesn't have that ridiculous upside that some of the players in this range might, he's the best shooter in the draft and a player that doesn't need to be the focal point of an offense. He's going to easily fit in as a third option next to Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. Kispert is more athletic than he's been given credit for. He's an above-average defender with good instincts, plus he has good size at 6'7". Sometimes you just need to draft a guy who's going to be a solid NBA player, even if they're a little bit unspectacular. And with Zion and BI already on the roster, that's the situation the Pelicans find themselves in. So coming away with Kispert and Buddy Hield, adding a ton of shooting all in one fell swoop, I feel really good about the Pelicans roster next season.
This is Matt George, host of the Locked On Kings podcast, here to make the 10th overall selection in our Locked On NBA Ultimate Mock Draft. The Kings at 10, what happened to 9? Well, I executed a trade with the New Orleans Pelicans, a trade that on the surface I know some people aren't going to like and a lot aren't going to understand, but I'm telling you it is the right move for the Sacramento Kings. The trade was sending Buddy Hield and number 9 to New Orleans for Eric Bledsoe and number 10. Let me explain the player swap first and foremost. Eric Bledsoe, is he a better player than Buddy Hield? Probably not, although he does some things that the Kings need, especially on the defensive end. But really, this is about money. Eric Bledsoe is owed $4 million less than Buddy Hield next season, which immediately opens up cap space that the Kings could desperately use this offseason. On top of that, Bledsoe's only owed $3.9 million guaranteed next year. So in the end, this trade will save the Kings over $30 million in cap space by saying bye-bye to Buddy Hield, that bad contract, and his inconsistent play. Also, was not a problem flipping number 9 for number 10, moving back 1 spot, because our guy was still there. With Moses Moody off the board at 8, I was pretty confident in what selection the Pelicans were going to make at 9. Our guy was there at 10. That is Michigan's Franz Wagner that I'm happy to announce as our draft pick. This is an excellent draft for the Sacramento Kings, an excellent selection. Chad Ford called him the analytical darling of this draft, and we know how much this Kings front office values analytics. He's a plug-and-play player, someone who can make an immediate impact for the Kings, which is exactly what I was looking for out of this draft. Someone who can play the 3, play the 4, certainly helps on the defensive end, is a better passer than I think people give him credit for, can also space the floor. I like his fit with the Sacramento Kings. I like this draft big time for the Kings overall. And now the Kings have Bledsoe or DeLon Wright to shop before next season's trade deadline.
I'm Walker Mayo from the Locked On Hornets podcast, and with the 11th overall pick in the Locked On NBA mock draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Zaire Williams, small forward out of Stanford. We're swinging for the upside on this one. I think he's the most valuable archetype player in the NBA. a big wing who can handle the rock and create not only for himself, but for others. He comes in, measured 6'9" at the combine in shoes. He's athletic. He also has a 6'10" wingspan, I think will help him on the defensive end. He's got a savvy pick and roll game. I think he's smart enough to hit the roll man consistently while also having the ability to take you off of the dribble. You look at the shooting mechanics, and I actually think they're quite good with a few minor tweaks needing to be made. You see the inefficient numbers in his lone season at Stanford, and that's where the problems come in. He reached about 30% from three. He shot under 40% overall from the field, but I think a couple of outside factors contributed to those poor numbers. You see that Stanford had COVID-19 issues that kept them on the eastern side of the country for a long portion at the beginning of the season. He also suffered a couple of deaths in the family that limited the amount of games that he played his freshman year with the Cardinal. I think shot selection also was a contributing factor to the poor numbers that he shot from the field and from three, and he needs to put on some weight and some muscle. There's no doubt about that. The NBA does an excellent job of adding strength to the prospects once they enter the association, though, and for those reasons, that's why I would select Zaire Williams and all the upside that comes with it, number 11 overall out of Stanford. Tell us what you think. I'm on Twitter at Walker Mail. We're also on Twitter at Locked On Hornets, and my co-host is on Twitter at Not of the Scribe. Thanks for joining us, and hope to catch you on an episode soon.
Jeff Garcia here from the Locked On Spurs podcast, and with the number 12 pick in the ultimate mock draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Kai Jones, center out of Texas. With the San Antonio Spurs needing some help at the center position, Kai Jones fits the bill. Look, there's no knock on Jakob Poeltl, but, just as great as he is on defense, he severely lacks in athleticism and on the offensive end. This is where Kai Jones comes in for the Spurs that are desperately needing a big man, at least one that is a lethal rim runner. Kai Jones fits that bill. He's a bouncy, athletic, big man the Spurs desperately need. Can get easy lobs, can protect the rim, can run with the young guys. He has patience on the block, and he's a very explosive when it comes to scoring the ball. His verticality is great. He's an excellent straight line driver, which is pretty good. Again, filling the need for San Antonio. He's a mobile defender, and I think that's what the Spurs lack in the big men they have currently. None of them are mobile defenders. Think about this. After Jakob Poeltl, it goes to Drew Eubanks and an unproven Luka Samanic. That is this Spurs big man depth, and this is where Kai Jones fits in. He's great off the ball. He rotates and he recovers quickly to alter shots. I think he would be a great fit in San Antonio. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast.
Tony East here from the Locked On Pacers podcast, and with the 13th pick in the ultimate Locked On NBA mock draft, the Indiana Pacers select Sharife Cooper, 6-foot guard out of the University of Auburn. Cooper was excellent for the Tigers in his only season playing college basketball, scoring over 20 points per game and dishing out over 8 assists per game, which really highlights his skills well just by looking at the stats, because he is excellent at getting by defenders and creating shots for both himself and others. An invaluable skill in the NBA. He can get into the teeth of the defense, make guys rotate around and shift to either get to his own spots to score or to set up his teammates for productive and efficient shots to score. And in the current NBA, guys who are versatile on offense and multifaceted and can create shots are really valuable. Just look at the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs. They had tons of those guys. They were able to score a lot, score often, and made it to the conference finals. And so we think Sharife Cooper can bring that to the Pacers, an invaluable skill that they need more of. Every team needs more of. So Sharife Cooper, the Indiana Pacers, with the 13th overall pick.
Sean Coleman here with the Locked On Grizzlies podcast. After a trade that sent Kyle Anderson and the 2022 first-round pick from the Utah Jazz to the Golden State Warriors, the Memphis Grizzlies are now on the clock with pick 14 in the 2021 Ultimate NBA Mock Draft. And with that selection, the Memphis Grizzlies select James Bouknight, a 6'3" shooting guard out of the University of Connecticut. Now, the major reason why the Grizzlies made this move was with a focus on the future. Though Kyle Anderson certainly was a very valuable member of the Grizzlies during the 2020-2021 season with an expiring contract and the likelihood that he'll want to make more going forward without likely being a starter on this team, the Grizzlies decided to make a play for the future and acquiring pick 14 and being able to select James Bouknight whose ability as a three-level scorer, his mentality as a player, and also his ability to create his own shot and create separation when he needs his own shot, fills many needs for the Grizzlies as a long-term potential partner with John Morant for the Grizzlies. And the even better part about all this is that with the Grizzlies picking James Bouknight at 14, we still have our pick at 17 to be able to add another intriguing piece to our future core.
What's going on, Washington Wizards fans? This is Ed Oliver from the Locked On Wizards podcast, and I'm doing a mock draft, making the pick for the Washington Wizards here. And with the 15th pick of the NBA draft, the Washington Wizards select Chris Duarte out of Oregon. He is 6 foot, 690 pounds. He's 24 years old. This guy can ball. Was all Pac-12 defensive team, was the Pac-12 player of the year. Scored 17 points per game, averaged 1.9 steals per game. This guy has a high motor and plays with a lot of intensity on the defensive end, something that the Washington Wizards have lacked defensively for the past 3 or 4 years. This guy he straps guys up and he scraps on the defensive end, and he shot 42% from the three-point line. The Wizards desperately need three-point shooting. We did not shoot a lot of threes last year. We did not make a lot of threes last year. Especially for a guy like Russell Westbrook, who drives the lanes and creates for guys, and he racks up on triple doubles. He's gonna find open shooters like Chris Duarte for wide open threes on the corner. He's gonna be a guy that can knock it down. Chris Duarte is very athletic as well, 6'6", 190. So this guy will be a nice 3-and-D shooting guard / small forward to come in to help out Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. This is a guy who's 24 years old, who's on the older side. But the Wizards need immediate help. They don't have time to wait on a developmental 19-year-old project pick at pick 15 in the middle of the draft. This guy, Chris Duarte, will come in and add immediate help shooting the ball and defending on the other end and scrap for the Washington Wizards. So this will be a solid, excellent pick out of Oregon. All right, you guys. Hail to the Wizards. Peace.
Hey everyone, Alex Wolf here from the Locked On Knicks podcast, and with the 16th pick in the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft, the New York Knicks select Josh Giddey, guard out from the Adelaide 36ers of the NBL in Australia. We feel really good about this pick. Made a trade up from 19 to 16 to go snag Giddey. We felt really strongly about him versus some of the guys that would potentially be left on the board at 19 when the Knicks were going to pick. No offense to Kevin Knox, we threw him in as the sweetener to get this deal done, to move up 3 spots. We're not shedding tears over it. Sorry, Kevin. Sorry to see you go. But we're really excited to get Josh Giddey in here on the Knicks. Really talented passer, really talented rebounder. He might be a point guard at about 6'8". He might just be a wing. No matter what he ends up being, he's going to be useful for the Knicks. You know, his handle is going to be a big question mark going forward. His ability to shoot the ball is probably the biggest question mark. He shot under 30% in the NBL. But we saw another guy last year in LaMelo Ball who, granted, way more talented of a ball handler, does a lot of things better than Giddey does, but a guy who, you know, had a subpar jump shot coming to the NBA and put up some pretty good numbers in that respect. So willing to bet on the talent, the elite passing ability, the great rebounding that he offers, and the potential for a 6'8" point guard that can really do a lot of things for a team that's been looking for that sort of next level point guard for pretty much forever now. So we felt really good about trading up to 16. Josh Giddey, you are now a New York Knick, so we're excited to have you, buddy. Good eye, mate, and welcome to the Knicks.
Hello, this is Sean Coleman from the Locked On Grizzlies podcast. It's good to see you once again. The Memphis Grizzlies were just on the clock at 14 after acquiring the 14th pick from the Golden State Warriors, where we selected James Bouknight from UConn. Now, with the 17th pick in the 2021 Ultimate NBA Mock Draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select Keon Johnson, a shooting guard out of the University of Tennessee. Now, it may seem a bit odd that the Grizzlies are selecting Keon Johnson when they just selected another shooting guard in James Bouknight, and they already have multiple two-guard options on the current roster. But the thing about it is this: in selecting Bouknight, we got a player whose skill set meets some of the needs that the Grizzlies have going forward. With Keon Johnson, we simply went best player available. Keon Johnson is an extremely valuable pick at number 17, a highly intriguing two-way guard whose athleticism and defensive upside was just too good to pass up on. Plus, with what Taylor Jenkins has done for players of similar profiles to Johnson, like DeAnthony Melton and Kyle Anderson, how Taylor Jenkins has helped to improve their shots, if Taylor Jenkins can have that same impact on Keon Johnson and help him develop a respectable shot, you've got a very, very valuable player. And between James Bouknight and Keon Johnson, the Grizzlies now have to truly feel confident that they're going to have Ja Morant's long-term backcourt partner on the roster. Though there are plenty of options in the backcourt now, maybe a bit too many on the Grizzlies roster, you also have plenty of trade assets that you can use from a creative front office to be able to mold this team moving forward.
Rylan Stiles here with the Locked On Thunder podcast with the 18th selection in the 2021 Ultimate Mock Draft. The Oklahoma City Thunder select Anthony Sengun, power forward out of Turkey. Sengun might be one of the best scorers in this draft class. He has great post moves and the hope he can extend his range from beyond the arc offensively. He's also a great rim runner that can help Shea in the pick and roll. He can also pick and pop in the mid-range if he can reach that shooting potential. Sengun might be an Enes Kanter type of player, and if you can reach Enes Kanter's level of offense at pick 18, that's incredible value. While some will view this as a boomer bust pick, the Thunder, with their plethora of picks, can afford to go that boomer bust route, and that's where Sengun comes in at pick 18. Rylan Stiles here from the Locked On Thunder podcast, and with the 19th pick in the Ultimate Mock Draft 2021, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Cameron Thomas, guard from LSU. Cam Thomas is a bona fide bucket getter that has all-star level potential as a scorer, where at worst, he can be a focal point of a secondary unit offensively. That is something the Thunder desperately need after a bad offense, historically bad offense, a year ago. Cam Thomas's scoring ability will be a breath of fresh air, and he'd immediately leap up into the top echelon of scorers on this Thunder roster currently. Plus, in this trade move back from 6 to 19, while still getting the player the Thunder are whispered of wanting in Cam Thomas, they do pick up a flyer in Kevin Knox, who maybe, with a change of scenery, can fulfill more of his potential. Kevin Knox was a really good corner three-point shooter last year. We'll see if that can continue into this year. And also, he's from Kentucky, so you know Sam Presti loves him. But ultimately, that was the move in this trade, to get a flyer in Kevin Knox and also still get the player we were targeting in Cam Thomas. It made the trade a no-brainer.
Brad Rowland here from the Locked On Hawks podcast, and with the number 20 overall pick, the Atlanta Hawks select Jalen Johnson, a talented forward out of Duke. Johnson is 6'9", 6'10", and a fantastic end-to-end athlete, a great transition prospect in a lot of ways with the potential to grab and go, and really his passing jumps off the screen in a big way. His shooting is still uncertain at this point in time, although he's not a non-shooter, but he's a fantastic passer, an end-to-end player, and also a very, very good defensive prospect. Johnson is a former top 10 high school recruit, and even after sort of an uneven season at Duke, this is a really, really good value for the Hawks at number 20 overall. He brings a lot of upside to the table, and from a talent perspective, he was a lottery-type pick in this class. The Hawks can afford to take a bit of a swing with where they are right now with all kinds of depth on the roster, and Johnson also fills something of a positional need as a combo forward. You can never have too many interesting guys between 6'7" and 6'10", and the Hawks have plenty of them, but Johnson adds another intriguing element, and more than anything, they get a great value at number 20 overall.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Gavin Shaw of the Locked On Knicks podcast, and with the 21st pick in the Ultimate Mock Draft, the New York Knicks select Tre Mann out of the University of Florida. Mann averaged 16 points per game last year on 40% three-point shooting, and seemed to peak at the end of the season where he was absolutely dominant, scoring 30 points in the SEC tournament against Tennessee, and then putting together back-to-back impressive NCAA tournament games. Mann, on top of his shooting, shows off a vertigo-inducing handle, and those two attributes combine to give him one of the highest unassisted three-point rates in recent draft prospect history. And some people will say taking Mann is overkill, despite that great handle that so often drives defenders into crushing ball screens and allows him to get all the way to the rim despite not having the best first step in the world. The Knicks do have a number of options at the spot already. With Emmanuel Quickley, with Derrick Rose potentially being resigned or a veteran upgrade in tow, Luka Vildoza signed over from Europe, and Giddey already drafted. But given the nature of the Knicks' first-round loss to the Atlanta Hawks, it's obvious that they desperately need more creation, and Mann's high-level shooting ability and his size will pair really nicely with Emmanuel Quickley, and down the road allow those two to potentially be the Knicks' backcourt of the future. Man certainly has some work to do in terms of his defense and passing and continuing to get more athletic and creative around the rim. But he's an answer to a lot of the Knicks' problems, and that's why he was the obvious 21st pick in the ultimate mock draft.
This is Andy Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast, and with the 22nd pick in the ultimate mock draft, the Lakers are going to be taking Jared Butler, a guard from Baylor. Fills a few needs for the Lakers. He's a scorer who can create for himself. Nearly 17 points per game last season. He's a shooter. He hit almost 42% from behind the arc. Improved all 3 seasons he was at Baylor in this regard. And he can, if nothing else, do some secondary playmaking, likely with the second unit. He's mature. He's played big in big games, including the Final Four and the national championship game for Baylor. He could be ready to contribute right now, and that is ultimately something the Lakers need with this 22nd pick. He still needs to get medically cleared by a panel with what is reportedly related to a heart issue, but assuming that's the case, he will be joining the Lakers.
Jackson Gatlin here from the Locked On Rockets podcast, and with the 23rd overall pick in the ultimate mock draft, the Houston Rockets select Trey Murphy III out of Virginia, the lengthy forward who has really developed a keen eye for shooting the basketball, adds a lot of needed size to the Rockets front court, to their wing slots. They've got Jae'Sean Tate, KJ Martin there, but two guys very talented but a bit undersized at the wing. Trey Murphy standing at 6'9", 7 foot wingspan, gives them some serious size, as well as, look, his number one skill is shooting the basketball. Shot over 40% from behind the three-point line, is a very talented shooter and projects to be your prototypical 3-and-D NBA wing. There might be some concerns about his ability to rebound the ball, or maybe some questions about his defense, but those are areas that I'm not too concerned about because shooting is a premium in the NBA landscape, and Trey Murphy III is a guy who can absolutely shoot the ball. Jackson Gatlin here from Locked On Rockets, and with the 24th overall pick in the ultimate mock draft, the Houston Rockets select power forward center JT Thor out of Auburn. JT Thor is a guy who is kind of like the home run pick here, right after going with Jalen Green and Trey Murphy III. This is kind of the one that's maybe not, I don't want to call it a reach, but he projects to be a really raw prospect, really interesting, very fluid, rangy, big offensively, has a great handle, a great feel for the game for a guy his size, 6'10", 7'3" wingspan. And then defensively, he's a guy that is going to be able to impact the game. He can meet defenders as they're driving at the apex. He has shown a great ability to block shots, to kind of, guard the paint. A really high energy, high impact type player. Got a great body that's going to fill out at the NBA level without too much worry for him to, lose the mobility that kind of makes him unique. And he's going to be able to slot into this 5-out system that the Houston Rockets have, and to be able to bring a guy like that off the bench to help bolster your front court if you're Steven Silas and the Houston Rockets, but to also conceivably continue to play a similar style to how the Rockets play when they have Christian Wood on the floor, to bring in another fluid, rangy big with similar skill set to Christian Wood, to be able to keep playing the same play style without having to shift things dramatically, is a really nice commodity to have. So JT Thor for the 24th overall pick for the Houston Rockets.
Charles Mockler here from the Locked On Clippers podcast, and with the 25th pick in the 2021 Ultimate Mock Draft, the LA Clippers select Ayo Dosunmu, guard out of the University of Illinois. He is a north-south scorer. He averaged 20 points. He's very versatile in the pick and roll. He also doled out 6 assists, which you absolutely love to see. The Clippers need some north-south scoring from their bench. Once Lou Williams departed, there was a bit of a hole there. There's going to be some development with his three-point shot. He did shoot 39%, but the year before, the attempts were up, but the percentage was down. Some time in the G League certainly couldn't hurt Ayo. What we like about him particularly is his defensive abilities. He can switch, covering multiple positions, which is crucial in the Clippers' switch-heavy scheme. He has a lot of great talent to learn with Patrick Beverley and perhaps Rajon Rondo still being on the team. The future's bright for Ayo, and he could most certainly become a crucial role player to add to the Clippers' already fantastic depth.
With the 26th pick in the Locked On Network NBA mock draft, the Denver Nuggets select Jaden Springer out of Tennessee. 6'3", good size on him, 44% from three-point range, 2.9 assists last year, a freshman, just 18 years old. He excels at feel for the game and off-ball defense. He's tenacious. He's got a big body. The shooting stroke does take quite a while, but our feeling is that with time, Springer will eventually get a quicker release. He did shoot 44% on the limited number of shots that he took from three. And when he does shoot and he does get a clean look, it looks very pretty. He's also versatile and able to do a lot of different things. He brings energy and intensity, and for a Nuggets team that needs wings desperately, especially young ones that are affordable, to go around Nikola Jokic and an already stacked roster, Springer is absolutely the way to go. He'll spend time in the G League developing his shot, working on pull-ups and trying to expand his game. But our feeling is that with time, Springer's going to wind up being a valuable piece to the Nuggets as they continue their quest for their first championship. For more on the Nuggets, make sure to check out Locked On Nuggets.
Adam Armbrick with the Locked On Nets podcast, and with the 27th pick in the Ultimate Mock Draft, the Brooklyn Nets select Usman Garuba, power forward out of Real Madrid, Spain. This is a 6'8" prospect with a 7'3" wingspan who comes in with an NBA-ready 230-pound built body. The reason why? He's played at the professional level internationally. This allows the Brooklyn Nets to look at a young player who they believe can come in and contribute immediately in the rotation on a roster that could potentially be losing the likes of Blake Griffin or Jeff Green over the course of the offseason. While his offensive game will need time to develop, because you look at this talented roster and the offensive firepower that the superstars bring, it's about bringing in pieces that can supplement that talent and help lock down the opposition in the deep playoff run. The Nets even tried to trade up into the middle of the first round to make sure they secured what was regarded by many NBA scouts as the best defensive prospect in this draft. They were ecstatic to see him fall to 27 and eager to get him out there on the floor this season in Brooklyn.
Keith Pompey here from Locked On 76ers podcast. With the 28th pick in the Ultimate Mock Draft, the 76ers select Herbert Jones, the University of Alabama. The Sixers are excited about Jones. You look at him, he's a solid defender. He's a little raw on the offensive end. But right now, what they need some role players who could come in and play defense. With Doc Rivers' coaching staff, they believe that they can get this guy right. But at this particular time, they need some bodies. They need some athletic wings. They need guys who can get after it. And Jones slipped to him. He slipped to him. So they're extremely excited about him. They're going to get him in there. He's going to do the summer league stuff. But they believe that he can be one of the key guys that they can depend on. That was a weakness they had. They didn't have anybody coming off the bench defending. But they think Jones, at 6'8", with nice wingspan, extremely athletic, that he's someone that they can build around. Someone that they, well, not build around, but someone they can use against, be a key ingredient to the bench. So this is a good pick for them. It's a solid pick. It fulfills a need for the Sixers.
Brendan Clean here with the Locked On Suns podcast, and with the 29th pick in the NBA Ultimate Mock Draft, the Phoenix Suns select Nishan Highland, Bones Highland from VCU, the sophomore, and a welcome addition to the Suns rotation. They had to spend veteran picks on shooters, on backcourt pieces to back up Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Cameron Payne during this season. You could easily see Highland fitting into that. He upped not only his three-point efficiency and volume, but also his 2-point. He only shot 43% as a freshman from 2, came back to school for VCU this past season, upped that past 50%, answering a lot of questions. He can finish with either hand. He has a floater package in addition to the main event of that pull-up shooting, that spot-up shooting, just a devastating shooter. Took almost 8 a game, had the green light, and really made his coaches happy for giving it to him. Defense going to be a question. Frame is going to be a question. But the good thing is the Suns don't need a player to come in and play right away. The NBA Finals, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Cameron Payne, those guys are rotation pieces. You don't need much behind them right away. You want to have pieces who you can trust to grow, develop behind those players. Chris Paul is a guy you can learn from. Devin Booker, a guy you can learn from. I think the stage is set to bring in a player like Highland who can learn the NBA game, get bigger, and add this shooting that the Suns covet so badly as he matures as a player.
Adam Armbrick with the Locked On Nets podcast, and with the 30th and final pick of the first round in the Ultimate Mock Draft, the Brooklyn Nets move up the board, packaging 44, 49, and 59 from the second round to come up and select Isaiah Jackson, power forward out of Kentucky. Now go back to last year's draft when coming into the season, the Nets were going to anticipate having not only veteran DeAndre Jordan and rising star Jarrett Allen, but also developing young big man Nicholas Claxton. However, through the Harden trade, the Brooklyn Nets ended up ultimately sending Jarrett Allen to the Cleveland Cavaliers. DeAndre Jordan's role diminished over the course of the season, and while Nicholas Claxton did develop, the acquisition through buyout market and ultimate retirement of LaMarcus Aldridge made it clear that the Brooklyn Nets still need more size and more length at the 5 position. Conventional wisdom would say find that typical paint-protecting big. But when you think about the lead-footed nature of DeAndre Jordan inside of this offense, it's clear that the Brooklyn Nets are not going conventional. Isaiah Jackson is a natural athlete and probably has not even fully recognized all of his potential. With a 6'11" standing height and 9-foot 5-inch reach, he's an incredible athlete, rim protector, and rebounder on the defensive end with the agility and footwork to range over on switches and coverage. Offensively, he's going to be a floor spacer, a respectable passer, and certainly someone who can run the court and throw down the lob. At just 206 pounds, he certainly needs to build out his frame and is regarded as more as a developmental prospect, but again, inside of a draft class where he could be regarded as high as the mid-teens to 20s, the Nets felt it was worth taking a look at a short-term development and long-term prospect for the Brooklyn Nets roster.